Good evening, Bronycon 2019! We are so thrilled to have each and every one of you here with us today. My name is Grandpaws. I'm a member of Commentary is Magic, and I am pleased to welcome you to our panel, Trailblazers in the Fandom. Tonight we have several members of the MLP community that are going to talk to us about leadership, about what good leadership means to them, about how their leadership journeys began, and the struggles that leaders might face. And so without further ado, let's introduce our panelists. Creator of the Bronies React YouTube series, ACRacebest!
Hi.
You know him as the world's manliest brony, DustyKatt. A skilled voice actor known as the Fandom voice of Vinyl Scratch, Jesse Nowak. The creator of Pinky Tails and Tiny Newborn Horses, MagpiePony. A puntastic hippogriff and author of the After the Fact series, SilverQuill. And a fanfic narrator and voice actress with a flair for the dark, TheLostNarrator.
See, I wanted that.
Now, before we hear from our first guest, it is important that we understand, when we're talking about leadership, the difference between being a leader and being an icon or being a boss, right? An icon is someone who seeks out fame and attention for their own benefit. An icon is self-focused. A boss is someone who wants to give orders and show authority or power. A boss is control-focused. A leader, on the other hand, is someone who wants to make a positive impact on those around them. It's someone who wants to improve their community in some way. A leader is service-focused. So now that we understand the differences between these, we're going to have each guest here tonight introduce themselves, talk a little bit about who they are and what they do, and we're going to have them do that before they answer 3 questions. What motivated them to become a leader or start their leadership journey in the first place? What obstacles have they faced along the way? And who do they look up to as a personal leader? And once all of our guests have had a chance to do that, we'll have some time for Q&A from the audience. So with that, let's kick things off with our first guest, ACRacebest.
Hello. So now is probably an appropriate time for me to point out that I thought this was the boss panel. So this is going to be a little awkward. No, yeah, what was I supposed to do here? Introduce myself?
Who are you?
Oh man,
How did you get
kicking this off right. So I'm ACRacebest. I've been in the fandom since just before season 2. I have a series online called Bronies React, which is by far my biggest in regards to, I guess you can say, leading. And yeah, I've had so much fun just being involved with this fandom and getting to know so many of you, and it has been a blast. And yeah, I can't wait for Bronycon, guys. We're here, or it's going to be big.
So what got you started on this route? People know you everywhere you go. People come out and want to take photos or shake your hand or
ask me for money.
Well, I mean, that too. So what started you on this path towards leading these groups and creating these series?
Well, I mean, obviously just getting involved in the fandom in the first place when my wife was like, hey, at the time she was just my girlfriend, so I didn't have to listen as much. But she was like, hey, let's check out the show, checked it out, got involved, you know, loved what I saw coming from the fandom, and I wanted to be a part of it on a creative sense and wanted to be able to contribute. And in doing so, I mean, again, it goes back to the Bronies React series for me, where I was like, you know, I think it would be goofy and fun to to get, a group of fandom members together and see, if what we can do with Bronies React. And who here has seen the first Bronies React, out of curiosity? All right. So I had no idea it was going to have the impact that it ended up having. I thought some people would find it and say, haha, that's funny, and other trolls would find it and be like, oh, you guys are dumb, and I was ready for all of it. But yeah, we ended up having so much fun with it that it became what it is today. So, yeah.
On that path, what obstacles have you faced? What kind of challenges have you had to overcome in getting everyone to work together to produce this content?
Oh man, we're in the hard-hitting questions already.
Oh yeah.
You could tell.
I'm not pulling punches here.
I woke up like 3 hours ago, so I'm just about there, guys.
You mean 9 o'clock at night isn't your peak? Come on, man, let's go.
You're right. But no, so obstacle-wise, for me, with the series and working with people, I always wanted to be someone, not just act like I was someone in this sense, but be somebody who people wanted to work with. And that required being, for what we were doing, which, everybody, it's all volunteer participation. It was a matter of first convincing people that they'd want to be a part of the series, and then living up to promises that I would make. So in regards to if I would tell people like hey, if as far as here's a deadline that we have for something that we're working on a project, but sometimes you have to just realize that the people you're working with have everyday jobs or are busy. They have lives, and letting everybody kind of work at their own pace while still kind of keeping a schedule, because you want to give everybody as much time as you can, but at the same time the reality is sometimes you have to make that decision as far as, okay, maybe we'll hit you up next time as far as being involved, and that's always been was always a hard thing for me, was where to draw that line, but it was always about understanding the people I was working with, being as understanding if anything ever came up, just not being, not acting like a boss with it, acting like, hey, we're all equals in this together. I'm just the one lucky enough to be able to put it together, and that was important to me. I wanted to be someone that people wanted to work with, not just people that heard like, oh, that'd be cool to work with them, but people that actually work with me and be like, no, I have fun when I'm doing it. So that was always my goal.
That's awesome. You're talking about treating everyone as equals and really respecting them for their jobs, their life, and I think that has helped you create just an awesome series, which I love, by the way, shameless.
Well, and it's been fun too, because like one thing that I always have enjoyed about it is that for me, there's not a lot of direction with Bronies React. It's me saying, none. No, but it's me essentially saying, hey, here's the episode, go, have fun, and yeah, that's again, I feel like what made Bronies React what it was all the people involved. It wasn't just me. I put it together. It's soak up the sun and all this. It was getting everyone together, get some FaceTime in regards to being able to show off the individual's personalities that some people know as an animator or a voice actor. Those are the people that it's like, whoa, so this is, they also have a comedy side, and everyone's different personalities coming through, I think, is what made this series what it was. And I was the lucky one who got to put it together.
That's awesome. Is there anyone that you look up to as a leader in particular in your own personal life or maybe here in the community?
Oh man, I've always admired, like if we want to talk about like in this community, I've always admired groups like the Anthology, and because again, I get what it's like to work with so many moving parts and pieces, and just again, it's a project that a lot of people want to be a part of, and that's something that comes with reputation. It comes with setting a good example for yourself, and so I mean when I got into the Fandom, Anthology was also the thing that inspired me to kind of start making content in the first place. So yeah, so that's kind of been where I've always been with it. Also, like you think about people like Walt Disney. Yeah,
there you go.
So he stuff like that. Like I've been inspired definitely by.
Wait, you like Disney content?
Go figure.
I had no idea.
I heard you back there, Zootopia. Yeah,
baby. Judy or Nick? Both.
Is there an or in that?
No,
It should be
no.
Judy and Nick.
Thank you.
Together forever.
There we go.
Let it just let it go, man. Just let it go.
No. All right, well, thank you,
Ew.
AC. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we are Commentary is Magic. I am Grandpaws, and also here today I have...
ACRacebest, and in the audience we've got Ivory, Starlight, and Big Cheese. If you guys will stand up and wave.
There you go. For those of you who may not know us, we are a community organization that's focused around the My Little Pony collectible card game, and we do quite a number of things related to it, the biggest of which is we lead global organized play for the game. On the front end, where it's visible, this means that we organize and live stream tournaments, we create bi-weekly Twitch content, we plan and coordinate championship events around the world, we work closely with MLP conventions like Bronycon to run or facilitate events, and we even create custom gameplay, making unique formats or fun cards that players can use.
So on the back end where it isn't so visible, it turns out you don't need to be a public figure to be a leader. We're involved with playtest and design for upcoming sets. We maintain and update the rules documents, we manage ban lists, and run websites like Ponyhead, which is the deck building tool for this game. It turns out there are a bunch of introverts quietly leading efforts to build, organize, and maintain massive forces in the fandom like film fiction and even whole conventions.
Imagine that, right? People leading conventions. So what made us want to work towards becoming leaders in the community? In some cases, leaders are born out of necessity. In other cases, they're born out of a sense of moral or ethical obligation. And in our case, it was a little bit of both. Back in 2015 at BabsCon, there was an unfortunate event that transpired where a couple individuals made some very disparaging, very derogatory remarks towards players of the game, and it created a large schism within the community. And it made us realize the need for family-friendly, constructive content for this game that we all loved so much. And it wasn't a far cry from live streaming these events to eventually organizing and even running them. And over time, we got even more involved and began to dedicate more time and more resources towards this game, which shows that really the driving force behind being a successful leader, as AC has mentioned, is a passion for the community that you are reaching out to, right? In our case, this was a passion for the game, not just playing the collectible card game, but also the overall health of the community, a passion for the players, and even, in my case, a passion for event management. I did not grow up saying, I want to run pony events when I get older. But it's actually a lot of fun. Yeah, I actually love it. And that's a cool thing. As you take on responsibilities as a leader, you might discover new passions, new skills that you were previously unaware of. But throughout the years, we never lost the focus, because the focus and the purpose of a leader, as we talked about at the beginning, is to serve and improve their community. And this isn't always as easy as it seems at first, and it's not always glamorous. Ara can actually tell us a little bit about some of the challenges we faced.
So leaders are under constant scrutiny, both fair and otherwise. You should be transparent about your goals and intentions as possible. In our case, many of us were and still are competitive players, and we have a reputation for playing the game to win using allowed strategies, but ones that others may look down upon because they seem unfair. This can make it very difficult to lead when people suspect that you may have an ulterior motive. When we need to make changes to the game, we make broad announcements, and we make the changes effective in the future. This shows our intention to improve the greater good of the game and not to personally profit from the changes that we're making to it. Another challenge that leaders can face is that it can take time for their vision to become clear and accepted by the community that they are trying to reach. Wrong slide. Sometimes the leader's vision does not match what the community expected. It is very important to communicate early and often to keep everyone on the same page. On a side note, manage expectations. You are not literally a princess that can raise and lower the sun.
I'm not. You don't know that. You don't know me. They're invisible. Don't worry about
Not
it.
finding any wings here. Where's Emmy Larson?
Larson, you out there?
Close the doors.
I don't know. You might get something signed here. But you need to set and communicate achievable goals. Change is gradual. It doesn't happen overnight. YouTube channels don't get 100,000 subscribers in the first week.
Subscribe to Sim's YouTube channel.
No, seriously, dude, the channel URL's ugly. A leader needs to be patient. You need to lead by example if you want to make an impact or a positive contribution. Live what you preach. Be open and honest. Be empathetic and kind. Be reliable and loyal. Be altruistic and generous. This sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it?
Just a little familiar. Honest, loyal, generous, kind.
I love the Power Rangers.
There's the magic.
There it is. So as far as who we look up to for leaders, me personally, I look up to Mark Rosewater. Mark Rosewater is the lead designer for the card game Magic the Gathering. Some of you may know of this game, yeah? And he has been for over a decade, and he does a lot of what we do on a significantly larger scale. And he faces criticism and comments from the community on a daily basis, but he never lets that break his stride, and he never lets it get him down.
So for myself, Gwen Shotwell, who is the President and Chief Operations Officer of SpaceX. She is not the public face of the company by any means, but she is absolutely the reason that it's been able to achieve its lofty goals. She is the person that makes all those crazy ideas that Elon has happen.
It's pretty cool seeing those rockets, too. All right, let's hear from DustyKatt.
Hi, guys. So I basically got started in my fandom career way back in the 80s. Yes, I came out of that furry fandom place. But I was doing stage stuff in costumes. So I always wanted to be an entertainer. And that was one way for me to get into it back in my 20s. And then when this came around, me and a roommate wrote the jokes for the manliest brony in the world, thinking it was a ha-ha joke and it'd be thrown away, right? It's like the same thing like with AC did. It's like, I'm going to make this thing, put it up, everyone's going to have a giggle and it'd be over. But no. People figured out that, man, he's done a lot of those things in his life, really, and he is the manliest brony in the world. All of a sudden, it became a thing. And then I did my show, Stay Brony, My Friends, and I thought to myself, hey, I've got an opportunity here to show a good face to the fandom and actually bring voice actors to you every other week instead of having to wait for one of these things to happen. And being as old as I was, I went through the right channels. I went to the agents and scheduled people to come on my show, and the agents were like very, very happy that someone was actually doing it the right way and said, okay, well, you need to do this. And as in being a leader, when my show started taking off after the first year and becoming popular, a lot of these other shows started to copy me and started asking me, well, how are you getting these people? It's like, well, I'm doing what you should do. You should go to the agents and all that kind of stuff. And people were trying to go backdoor and talk to the VAs, and the VAs didn't like that. And trying to lead by example is what I tried to do. This is the way it does. If you want to show, this is how you do it. And I told people that. This is how I did it. This is how you should do it. And some did it and had great shows, and some didn't and just fell to the side. And we started doing charity work, and that led me into doing the charity auctions and let me entertain you some more. But I was doing it to actually help people, and that is a huge in here. I love it when I get to entertain you guys and help people, and it's so awesome that you guys come and do that. And then all of a sudden, other people, when I can't be at a convention, start doing, you know, the auctions the way I do it, and raising even more money. And I love it. I love it. And just basically leading people to that way of doing things and showing it that this is how you can do it. And I've made my missteps. Everybody knows about the spaghetti incident and that I had a temper. And I made good from that. I learned from that. And as a leader, you're going to have people who are jealous of you and say, well, why does he have that? Why don't I have that? Well, because I worked for it and you didn't. Right? And that's just the way it happens sometimes when you're a leader and you're out front and you're helping people. And some people get jealous about it. Right? And you can do what I did and lose your temper. And sometimes you have to face up, it's like, yes, I was wrong. And as a leader, you have to have that internal fortitude to go, stand up and go, yep, I was wrong. And I learned a lesson from it. And I'm not going to do that again. Or I'm not going to do that anymore. And thank you very much for pointing that out, because it makes me better. So I can lead better. Because you're all going to make mistakes, okay? If you're out front, you're going to make a mistake. Because there's no road, right? You're hacking through the jungle with a machete because there is no path. You're making the path. And you're going to make a left turn to Albuquerque. And figure out that you're supposed to go to Fresno.
No one's supposed to go to Fresno, Dusty.
I got that reference.
Yes. So, if you're going to be a leader, you're going to be out front, you're going to make mistakes, and accept it, and relish in it. Because absolutely nobody learns anything by doing the right thing every time. You learn from making mistakes. And you go, okay, don't do it that way. I now program CNC machines. Second week I was on the job, I crashed a $100,000 machine. Yep. And I killing myself. AC knows, I have a bad thing about, I just started this job and I just started beating myself up. And my boss, who's our leader, Ty, who owns the company, owns that machine, came over and just started laughing. And he said, dude, that's nothing. You should have seen me crash a machine. And that's a leader. I was feeling like yes about it. And it's his machine, and I just crashed a $100,000 machine. He's like, nah, don't worry about it. It's only a tool. It's a $40 tool. It didn't hurt anything. Just go ahead. It's no big deal. That's a leader. And he gets out on the floor and he shows me what I'm doing wrong, and he shows me exactly what I need to do, and I'm a better machinist for it. That's a leader. A boss sits at his desk and says, oh, you broke my machine, here, pay for that tool, and if you broke the head, that's $100,000, and I'm firing your ass. No, he's a leader. And that's the man I look up to right now.
That's awesome.
Now, Dusty's going to send the video of this panel to his boss and get a raise.
Thank you. Hi. I took notes because I am a nerd. Let's see.
All right, nerds.
Hi. Boop.
Go introvert!
Nerds. I'm going to say that to a bunch of brownies. We get it. I am like... The thing about me is I'm struggling with the idea that I am a leader, and I think it's important, it's important to acknowledge that as well, because one of the questions here, I wrote down questions and then took some notes because I was like, if I improv, I'm not going to say any of the things that I want to say. But here's the thing, I don't think I'm a leader. I'm just kind of existing, and people look at me and see what I do. As a voice actor who started in internet stuff, I just kind of made stuff and then put it on the internet and didn't think about it, because there's no audience that you can see. I did theater for a while, and there's an actual audience there, and you can see and hear reactions and stuff. And wow, this is, I'm sorry, this is the first panel that I've done since my voice dropped, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, wow, that feels incredible. Sorry, what was I saying? But yeah, I didn't really consider myself a leader in any aspect, and I forget that I'm known in things, and I just go to cons and people recognize me, and I'm still trying to absorb that, even after 11 years. And, but the thing is, I'm just existing as a queer person is representation whether I like it or not. It's I'm just here, and people who can relate to me will see me existing in life and think that's a brave act, because, I didn't know what trans was when I was a kid. I didn't know what bisexual was when I was a kid, and now for someone to see me existing as I am and just kind of being a voice actor and succeeding in the industry, they can see themselves and be like, oh, I could do that one day, and that's really cool, and something that I am struggling to realize, but that doesn't make it not true. That just means, that I need to be aware of it. What made me want to work towards becoming a leader was, that's exactly what I just said. I got ahead of my notes, but yeah, just existing. Because Bronycon was the first convention that I had an appearance at after I came out last year, and I was really nervous about it because I was like, oh God, I don't know what's going to happen. It's only been a month. Are people going to know that this happened? Because I talked about it on Twitter, and I got the people who were in line to meet me at my meet and greet last year was like such an emotional convention because I got so many people that were, that were queer or trans or, had kids or brothers or sisters, and a lot of people just thanked me for existing, and that's a lot to put on, I was 25 at the time last year, and that's a lot to put on a 25-year-old that I'm making a difference just by existing, and a lot of people, I got a startling amount of people that were like, hey, you changed my life, or you saved my life just by you being a person, and that's so. It takes a while to absorb such information and realize that I was thankful for it at first. I didn't ignore it, but my brain, it kind of whizzed past my brain like, okay. But after you hear it so many times, then you start to be like, oh, maybe there is something to this, and I'm still absorbing it. What challenges or obstacles have I faced in my...
Jesse, I think we can all just say you have been an absolute inspiration for so many people here. And we are so grateful to have you here today for the person that you are.
Don't make me cry. That's another thing, yeah. Don't be afraid to cry. I used to be, existing as, this is related, I used to have a lot of like, some trans men when they transition feel like they have a lot of like performative masculinity that they have to do. They don't want to, like, in order to fit in, we try not to cry, we try not to, because we want to be like the toughest version of a man that we can so we can fit in. But that's not masculinity, that's toxic masculinity, You can, guys cry, guys get emotional, guys think about things that you would associate with femininity. It's like, it's not a, and ponies. I feel that's, you guys get it.
I've had two friends die this summer. You can bet I cried my eyes out.
Yeah, it's not, I'm fortunate that like the more we exist as people, the more we're getting to realize like, oh, we can just, things don't have to be gendered, we can just like do stuff. And realizing, I was scared to attend Bronycon last year because of like, oh God, what's gonna happen, now that I've come out. But I realized I was never ever afraid of liking ponies, because this is the fandom where my guy friends liked ponies. That wasn't a thing that that would be unusual, that I like horses. But challenges and obstacles that I've faced in my role as a leader is that I have to actively think, because people are looking at me, I can't be as lazy as I'd like. I have to think about what I'm putting into the world, because people will notice that. A lot of people say that I've helped them, but honestly, you guys have all really helped me, because I have to actively pay attention to what I'm thinking and feeling and stuff, and that's really important. And I've spent a lot of time working towards making the voiceover industry a safer place for queer people and women to exist, and people of color, because there's a lot of bad people in the voiceover industry right now. And, you know, if I can be real, I'm getting kind of a reputation for like taking down, like, you know, people who are sexual abusers and things like that. And I'm like, good.
for you, man.
I'm glad I have that reputation.
Is there anyone in this journey you've been able to look up to as a leader or an inspiration for yourself?
Yeah, Ashley Juergens, who is Trans Boys Dance 2 on Instagram, is fantastic. He's super well-spoken and incredibly intelligent and like very thoughtful, and his Instagram has affected a lot of what I like post on Instagram, because he's a trans man activist, like dance type person, and you know, just he makes me think a lot about gender and representation in ways that I didn't think of. And now my Instagram posts are kind of like a photo and then something that vaguely relates to it, and then I talk a lot about, like, these are some important things that I'm going through or you might be going through, and I give life advice and stuff like that. And also, like, two of my best friends in the world, Sam Haft, who's a voice actor, and Dash Kwiatkowski, they really help me. They'll call me out on stuff if I say something problematic, or and they're like, hey, I think maybe you should think about this, and I might be like, oh, I never even thought about that. But it's really good to have friends that will be honest with you and communicate with you if they think that you are saying something or doing something that isn't correct. Because otherwise you're just gonna keep existing as the same person, and I don't want friends who just let me get away with stuff. That's not what I want. I want someone who helps me become the best version of myself, and I think that's important also as a leader, is to like help people become the best versions of themselves, and that's all I want.
Awesome, thank you. MagpiePony.
It's my turn. Hi. Well, I made a joke earlier and Lost said I have to make it, so I'm sorry, Silver. This is probably the first panel in a long time that successfully separated the gay horses. There, I said it. There you go. I'm happy.
Not intentional.
Curse you, alphabetical order!
Yes, I am MagpiePony, and my introduction was pretty spot on. So, Pinky Tells is a thing. It's a... What would you call Pinky Tells? It is a comedy, radio / visual mess of fun. That's what I call it. And then I like to make tiny baby horse noises. Yay! So yeah, that's. But I got my start in the fandom. Well, actually, how I found Pony, I was a nanny. And I went over to my nanny kid's house, and A Canterlot Wedding Part 2 was playing. Oh. And so that's why Cadence is my favorite horse. Well, favorite princess. You know, no one can beat Trixie, but anyway. So I went home and I binge watched it. And then my nanny kids, they like encouraged me to make a channel and do art and sing and things, even though I didn't think I could. And I really attribute a lot of my start to those kids, and I love them so much. And I decided, you know what, I want to try a project. I want to try actually getting a whole bunch of talented people together and making something out of it. And I was inspired by Disney Fanatics' Bride of Discord. And so I thought, you know, I would love to do something similar to that, you know, like have voice actors and artists and, you know, sound design and everything all come together. And boy, oh boy, did I learn what it was like to be a leader. I think if I were to say the one piece of advice, the one thing that stands out no matter what you do and what project or whatever, it's respect. Respect is the top of the list. I try my best to treat everyone I work with the exact way I would want to be treated. How would I, if I were an artist, how would I want to be treated? If I were a voice actor, how would I want to be treated? Because that's when a project goes from a bunch of random people coming together to a family. And I have a lot of family now, and I'm so grateful for that. I think that, like, I can't words right now, guys. Nerves are a thing. I love you too. But I've had to make some really tough choices, because when you're put in a position where people look up to you, you have to make those tough choices, and they suck. And we are gonna mess up and make mistakes, but at the same time, it's like, I would rather make a mistake than try and correct someone else's, in the sense that, like, I hate having to, I like the going on out there, so I'll just, I get easily distracted, guys. I only mean that in the sense that it's really hard for me to put my foot down. I would rather me be the one that messed up and have to make up for it than have to say, look, I'm sorry, but I have to be firm here. And I think more than anything, I try my very best to put my very best foot forward, and that's all you can ask for in a leader. So. What were the other questions?
You're doing good, you're doing good. Is there a particular obstacle or struggle you've had to overcome? I know you mentioned that sometimes leaders have to make difficult decisions, right?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest one.
Okay.
It's, for me specifically, like, I have such a bleeding heart. I try to give everyone just all of me, and then that means there's nothing left. And that's where you have to draw the line, and it sucks. Because I just want to make everyone happy. I just want everyone to be happy, but that's not how life works. So my biggest obstacles are having to make those tough choices, I think, for sure.
Have you had a mentor or a leader that you look up to throughout your journey?
I'm glad you said it's okay to cry, because now I feel like I'm going to cry.
It's okay to cry.
It's okay to cry.
My grandmother, she was everything. She was a kindergarten teacher, or a first grade teacher, and she's the only teacher I've ever known in my life to have her first graders send her graduation and wedding invitations, because she touched their lives that much. And everything I do, sorry, I hope to make her proud, and I miss her. Someone else go.
I think you're doing a great job.
How am I supposed to follow after that?
Like, right?
Okay.
We'll find a way, Silver.
Again, I curse alphabetical order.
Dance, Silver, dance.
Why did I choose the name SilverQuill when I could have been appropriate Apple? I don't know. But no, I went with the name SilverQuill. I started out in the fandom making comics, and eventually progressed to making YouTube videos, like you do.
As you do.
And I've taken on a lot of roles. I write editorials for Equestria Daily. I still make comics. There will be a Pinkie Pie Says Goodnight, because season 9 resumes this Saturday. I've joined podcasts, and I've had the immense pleasure of going to conventions and getting to meet people in person and see this fandom all across America, which is stunning and humbling. I'll tell you guys true. One of the most humbling moments was at Bronycon 2015. We were having lunch with some folks, and a young man said to me, your review about Spike with Dr. Wolf came out the day after my grandmother died, and it was the only thing that could make me smile that day. I just stunned, and I had the pleasure of seeing him again at BabsCon 2016, where he was doing well, and it was great to connect with him again, and just to see that he'd stayed with the fandom and was moving forward. It was a wonderful experience. Now, I got involved in this show indirectly. I was working a job where you don't see people at their best, and so I would go home and decompress with what had transitioned to mostly online shows. Primetime, oh God, primetime. You're not supposed to watch that and feel happy. It's drama. No, I went online and I would watch Red versus Blue, Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. And they kept mentioning My Little Pony. And I said, My Little Pony, isn't that the show I totally didn't watch when I was an 80s child? And it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I will check this out. And I scoped out the first season because season 2 had only just begun. So I did a mini marathon, 3 episodes a night. Really enjoyed it, but I didn't start really falling for the show until I saw the fandom and all that they had created, and really came to enjoy it. And I decided once to try my hand. I made a comic, submitted to Equestria Daily just before the season 2 finale, and didn't get accepted. It was not good. It was not good. It's still on my DeviantArt account, but it's not good. And I said I never heard a thing back. So when they released comics and I looked at all of them, I said, yeah, these people earned it. They really did a good job. And I thought I'd give it one more try. I did another comic. I did a better job of referencing the characters. I still did a better job of research, but it still wasn't that great visually. But it got on Equestria Daily. I went to bed. My DeviantArt had like 100 activities. Wake up in the morning, 1,000. Did I log into someone else's account? And it has snowballed from there. Every time I've tried something new, I've gone with the assumption that it's not going to go anywhere. It's just a quick thing. My videos were just me getting on my digital soapbox every once in a while. But there's this reciprocity. There's this energy flowing back and forth between content creator and audience. I mean, I hope that it entertains and empowers people watching, because your feedback really empowers me to keep going. And it's built on that, and I've been humbled by the impact and hopeful that what I do still makes a positive impact in people's lives. But the struggle with that, one of the big challenges, is that as you become more involved, it's harder to figure out where to put your energy. Like Dusty said, there's a lot of people, especially on YouTube, who love to try and gain attention by tearing someone else down or trying to start a feud, doing something to hurt another person to make themselves look strong. And one thing I've come to realize very firmly is, you're trying to pull other people down, you'll never pull yourself up. It's like, rather than trying to climb the mountain, you're tearing it out at the base. And so it fails every time. You may get attention, but you won't grow. But it's also hard because I've had to realize I agree to things way too quickly. Too quick to say yes. I've had to cancel collaborations because they were headed to a very bad end. And there are times I said, I wish I had done a better job of vetting people. I wish I'd done a better job of looking and checking. And I've tried to learn from that and grow. And it's hard. I mean, that feeling can stay with you. But again, if you stop, you're going to stop growing as a person. So I've tried to learn to better channel my energy and to focus on what builds others up and push. And if someone's trying to tear things down, don't give the feedback. Don't give that energy, and it dies out on its own stagnation. In terms of leaders that I look up to within the fandom, there's Anthony C., who was a great example of comedy and insight, and DustyKatt, who has coached me through several facets of conventions, including charity auctioning and interviewing community VIPs. But I will also say sometimes there are leaders who disappoint you. If folks have seen my Fallen Idol review for Brave Star, I looked up to Bill Cosby for non-grotesque humor, and then he let down an entire nation. And that hurts. So I have to take what I admired, but also understand that not to get caught up, not to make the same mistakes as best I can see. And that's also how you grow. Sometimes your personal heroes let you down, but you can emerge stronger.
And you certainly have.
Oh man, pressure's totally not on for being last.
Alphabetical order, am I right?
I cursed myself by giving the at the front. That was my own fault.
You've been right in the middle. It would have been so easy.
Right? So I'm the Lost Narrator. I do fanfic readings on YouTube. I'm known for my bloopers. I am known for voicing Rainbow Dash and Applejack. And I have a mouth, so there's that. But I got into the fandom around 2013. I was in a very, very abusive relationship, and I was into creepypastas, and I was getting into like readings and things like that, and I started seeing all these memes of ponies, and I was like, what is this ponies? Why is everyone like making all these funny posts that are totally adult jokes about ponies? And I found it on Netflix, and it was after I'd heard Mr. Creepypasta's reading of Cupcakes, and yeah, that's my introduction into the fandom, so that should get you there.
Nowhere to go but up from there, so.
But I was in a really low place in my life. I was in this relationship for like a good 4 years, and it was physical, and it was sexual and abuse. It was just the whole 9 yards. And I remember I was on Netflix and I found it, so I started watching it, and I remembered, I loved the interactions of the main six, and I'm a shipper, I'll admit it. I love shipping characters, it's fun, and everyone's OTP's crap except mine, but whatever. But I remembered thinking like, oh, there's some cute things going on, and then I started getting into the fan fiction, Obab Scribbler actually. I got into a lot of the fanfic readings from Obab Scribbler, and she was reading a lot of same-sex couples, like, obviously Flutter Dash, Apple Dash. She loves Apple Dash, she's wrong, but but I got into it, and I was like, I loved it because I was in such a horrible relationship. I didn't know what it could have been, and I started doing fanfic readings as it was. So I had done YouTube a few times before, and they just failed. And I was like, this is going to be my last shot. I'm going to try it one more time, and I'm going to pour myself into it and just have fun. And it took off. I started doing readings just for myself. It was the same thing that Jesse said. I never thought of myself as a leader. Even now, I'm sitting at this table. I told Mag, I'm not a leader. What is this? I don't feel that way. But I realized as I kept doing readings, and I did Q&As, and I would interact with fans, and I casually would bring up, oh, I'm gay, I'm a lesbian, I like women, whatever. People would come up to me, thank you. It was that idea of the representation. It blew my mind, because in my head, I was just like, I'm just being me. That's the thing. It's always for myself. It's always that I've always just been myself. I don't try to be something that I'm not, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to be disingenuous in the idea of who I present myself as. And I started doing that, and especially one of the blooper reels, I was like, oh, I put in a blooper about Mag mentioning me as her girlfriend, and everybody, their minds were blown, because they're like, oh my gosh, Lost Narrators with MagpiePony. And it was relieving. I found strength in the fact that you guys, especially were coming up to me telling me thank you, because I can come up to my mom now. I feel comfortable with who I am because of what you're doing. Because for me, it was I just wanted to be myself, because I hadn't been myself for literally 4 years. And it wasn't until I put out, it was before I had proposed to Mag, I put out a video on my side channel about my abuse story, and it wasn't until after that, and I came to Bronycon that year, and I had so many people coming up to me telling me just thank you for saying that, and I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry.
It's okay to cry.
It's okay to cry. I don't want to cry, but there was because I felt so alone in that. Like, that's the thing. When you're going through something and you're stuck in the middle of it, you don't realize that you're in this pool of nothing, but there are people trying to reach out to you. And it's up to you to kind of reach out, but I wasn't doing it. And it wasn't until I got into this fandom and I realized, I always make the joke that everybody's just a little bit broken. Everybody's got a little bit of problems going on, but we're all wearing those masks and holding it together. And we're not alone. All of us here are we're all supporting each other and uplifting ourselves, and I just love it. And that's why, like, when I'm just existing. Like, I really am. I don't see it as me being a leader. I'm just being myself.
I disagree.
That's the thing. I'm just like, okay. But I think one of the biggest struggles that I've had with being a leader is the idea of maybe putting a little too much of myself into my projects. This past Halloween, I finished up a 5-part series of a fanfic where I took my pain and everything that I'd been through and I funneled it into a fanfic about OCs. And it broke me. It broke me mentally, but it was probably one of the most cathartic...
Guess you had to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, she picked up all those pieces, all of them. But it was one of the most cathartic things, and I think that's like one of the biggest things that I could say is don't... Be aware of what you're doing as a leader sometimes. Don't put too much of yourself into it because you can burn yourself out and you can hurt yourself. It's okay to be selfish at times and take care of yourself. And as for who I look up to, actually Jesse, you're one of the biggest inspirations as to why I got into voicing. And in my and my own grandmother, actually, she taught me from a very young age the idea that you should live by the golden rule of treat others the way you want to be treated. And I feel like, especially in this day and age, we forget that so often, just to be sympathetic, because we don't know what other people are going through. We don't know what their secret struggles are. And just a little kindness can go a long way.
It has been inspiring for me, at the very least, just to be here among all of you and to hear what an incredible impact you've all made in each other's lives and in my life and the lives of everyone out here as well. And so I just want to give everyone a big thank you again. So thank you so much, everyone. Now, we know some of you may have aspirations to be leaders yourselves. You may have projects that you want to start. You may have groups that you want to make an impact on. You may want to make a difference and aren't just really sure how. And so we've got a little time here at the end. We're going to take some questions from the audience. We've got some people coming up from the back right now. So if anyone would like to ask a question of any of our panelists here, we would encourage you to do so.
Take the one in the front.
All right. There we go. Okay. Yep.
Bringing the mic.
Oh, the green light, yeah.
Just a minute as we get set up.
Would you like to change my name to Zeta SilverQuill and make the stream succeed?
So let's go here in the front row on the right. Yes, please.
So we probably have time for like 2 questions.
There we go.
Sorry, I think there's a little confusion. But
yeah. If anyone has questions, go ahead and just make a line right here in the aisle, and that'll be the easiest way to do it.
We have 5 minutes.
I think we have like 5 minutes.
that's okay. We'll answer very quick.
Rapid fire.
Couple quick questions
Rapid
here.
fire questions.
Rapid fire. Here we go.
Let's do this.
We're pulling a Judge J. Rapid fire. Rapid fire.
Hi, Lost. Of course.
Oh, hi.
I was wanting to ask you, like, with your abuse story, when you was in that very dark pit of nothingness and despair, how did you find the inspiration to continue on?
It was you guys. I constantly put at the end of my bloopers that I can't, or I can keep saying thank you, but it means all the things that you guys have said, it means more to me than you guys will ever know. Because especially when I was at my worst, I would get those comments on YouTube, like Silver was saying, I would get those comments on YouTube, and it was that back and forth that I was like, I gotta keep doing this. I can't, because I was very suicidal during that, and I was just like, I gotta keep going. So.
I understand. I just had to ask because of that.
No, that's okay. Yeah, you're good.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
In 2015, I met, it was my first year of being transitioning, and I met with Dusty and Jesse, and I just want to tell a little short story because I was waiting to meet with Dusty, and he met with this kid who was coming out as gay, and they got thrown out of their house. And I was so inspired by the fact that Dusty wrapped that kid in his arms and helped that kid get through a lot of things in his life. And for me, it took me a long time to figure out how to be my best self as a trans woman. And seeing these two really provided me a really great strength in being able to see more what I can do. And I started to I worked in a very small food cupboard that only gave out a little bit of food for families, and then they recently hired me as one of their leaders there, and now we have recently reached over 100,000 pounds of food given out to needy families in our community, and I wouldn't have been able to do it nearly as much if I hadn't met these two, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, so I have a question for Miss Narrator.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Miss Narrator, I like that. That's a new title. Go on.
I'm sure this applies to multiple of you as well. So you said that you had multiple attempts of trying to start a YouTube channel that was going to get big. So each time that you tried over again, did you start a whole new channel, or did you use the same channel that you tried to use?
The first 3 were all different channels, and they were all in separate dramas. My first YouTube channel was AMVs. Like, I started off there, and then I went to vlogs, and then I went to Let's Plays, and then I finally settled on voice acting. Each one of those was a different channel. What I normally suggest for most...
And she hides them now.
Oh, I hide them all. Yeah, no. That's the cringe. We don't want that. Normally what I do is, or are you like asking like if what what should you do to like grow an audience or things like that, or?
I'm just asking, just logistically speaking.
Oh, okay.
Because like, okay, so you started them because you had different subjects, you had different things that you were doing. But like, what if you're doing the same thing and it's not really working, but you want to try over new?
My biggest suggestion is that if you already have a really big channel, keep with it and just keep going. If you have a smaller channel, like all of those channels were all under 500 subs, and it wasn't until Lost Narrator that just the magical YouTube gods decided to smile down upon me and the algorithm did it. That's really what it was. But I mean, it's all about having fun. Like when I was, all those channels that I did, I wasn't even trying to get views. They were all an outlet for me to just pour myself into. So.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Let's do one more here. Unfortunately, we are a little short on time, so let's take the next one.
I'm sorry, this question is not immediate for you guys. Can I just say I absolutely adore the crocheted amigurumi pony. Can I ask who made it?
Yes, this was Sonnet Scroll. This was one of our players out on the West Coast.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Can I just play?
Yes, quickly.
Sorry. This is just a message that was recorded for one of you on the staff. Just a way to say thanks.
Dear SilverQuill, Tim, thank you for everything that you've brought to the My Little Pony fandom. Your creativity, hard work, friendliness, insight, and unique sense of humor. Thank you for helping make this fandom what it is. Sincerely, Twilight Sparkle and Trident.
And yes, that was Tara Strong.
All right, thank you, everyone. We are unfortunately out of time, but we appreciate all of you coming out here.
Please excuse me while I faint.
All right.